I'm Jim Collison, and this is the Clifton Strengths Podcast, Season 3, recorded on January 25th, 2024. In this Clifton Strengths Podcast series, we'll look at how to feel more energized and motivated at work, one theme at a time, and today's theme is competition. If you're listening live, we'd love to have you join us in chat or email us your questions after the fact, coaching@gallup.com. Dr. Jaclynn Robinson is our host today. She works as a senior learning and development consultant. Join me for season 1 and 2 of the Clifton Strengths podcast. If you haven't listened to those, you should go back and do it. Maybe for those high in competition, I dare you to get that done in a day. Go binge them right now, get them done. Where we looked at well-being at work and our Clifton Strengths podcast, or our Clifton Strengths role-based reports, one theme at a time. Jaclynn, always great to be with you. Welcome back.
Thanks. Good to be here.
Maybe I should do a theme-based challenge for all of these. If you've listened
I
to
know
them,
that'd be
that's
kind of fun.
the first step. How to listen to podcasts based on your themes. Maybe that's season 4 of this program. But Jaclynn, we're spending some time this season talking about bringing energy and motivation to work with your themes. Today we are talking about competition. Let's talk about the individual first. Our very first question is always, what are some ways that an individual with competition can feel more energized by focusing on their basic needs?
Well, when you have clarity on your key priorities and responsibilities, build in benchmarks and KPIs, those key performance indicators to measure your progress and success. And then ask your manager when it's applicable how your performance compares against internal benchmarks. I know sales folks get this a lot where they can have that leaderboard and they see where they're at in relationship to their team members. But there's other departments or other teams that might be able to get a read on how well they're doing in comparison to maybe their fellow team members. So that might be a good opportunity to ask your manager if it's applicable.
I think for the basic needs area, I've heard a lot, and I don't have this, but for folks that are high competition, setting up these personal rewards for winning, right? Get some ways
I
you can
like that.
win, right? You can't fake it. You still got to win.
Yeah.
There's winners and losers, but
That's right.
for things that you're doing, I think about the basic needs of, or I think about, like, I've heard a lot of speakers say, successful people make their beds. And I'm a terrible bed maker. I just am. I don't do it very well. I'm not very good at it. I don't do it very often. But I think if I were to, if I did have high competition, I might try to work on a streak. Like, there's a streak app where you can every day mark what you did, and it'll tell you, I'm on a streak for 14 days. I've done it 14 days in a row, right? And just that
Yeah.
competition to say, okay, I'm going to go 30. I'm going to go 60. Now I'm going to go 75, right? And then achieving and winning against yourself, right? I don't know, feedback on that. What do you think of that idea from a basic needs perspective?
Yeah, you do remind me. I didn't know about the Streak app, but it's a great point because there are apps where you might not know any of the other folks that are on that app and involved, but you can also compare yourself against
Yes.
them. And it's,
Yes.
I mean, I've seen that on the exercise apps where you might be doing your own, race. You have no one else that's doing that
Yeah.
race. You're logged in and you can see and track against other people where you're at in relationship to the world. And I wonder, even from a productivity standpoint, if that would up the ante even more. It's like, oh, I'm getting a
Mhm.
lot done. How do I compare
Mhm.
to these other folks that are also on the app trying to get a lot done?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that idea. And we think of that in the physical realm of being real popular, that during the pandemic, a lot of those apps popped up to keep people
Hmm.
motivated. But there are, like, reading productivity apps. My daughter
Yes.
has read one. For every hour she reads, it grows a tree, I think, or something like that, right?
That's so
And
neat.
maybe that's not a
Gotta
competition
find
thing because
these.
there's not a win there, but I love your idea of competing against people you may not even know. Right,
Yeah.
and so, man, what a great, yeah, I hadn't put
They're out
that's
there.
I hadn't put that 2 and 2 together. That's super cool. What are some ways individuals with this competition thing can feel more energized by focusing on their individual strengths and development?
Well, this might be a little bit of what you were saying. It's using your competitive spirit and edge to drive towards cultivating your strengths. So when you look back at your performance goals and metrics, what areas felt like a win? What felt like a loss? And then ask for feedback or mentorship and look for opportunities to keep sharpening your skill set.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe particularly where you felt that loss and it was really hard hit. It's like, how do I get back on top and do better? So I'm finding more successes than losses as I think in the future.
I love that idea of a loss driving a win. In other words, right?
Yeah.
Not to get down, but to say to use that as fuel for the next win.
Yes.
A loss is
Yes.
just fuel for the next win. you know,
We hear that with competition too, don't we? It's like I
right?
always remember my
Yeah.
worst loss. Stays
Uh-huh.
in my mind.
Yeah. I think
Yeah.
this next question is going to be interesting because I don't know if it's as natural as most people think, but you'll clarify it. So how can a man? Oh, I'm
Oh,
sorry. How I
yes.
went up too far here. I got too far ahead. Hold that question. We'll come back to it. I don't know why I got so far ahead. What are some ways an individual with competition can feel more energized by building partnerships? Although this would apply here too. Building partnerships and finding purpose in their role, especially if you're winning. How are you building partnerships by winning? Talk a little bit
Yeah.
about that. Yeah.
I love working with people high in competition. One, it feeds the positivity that I have, but they could organize friendly competitions or games among team members where each person is able to lean into their own talents and strengths. The end goal is being this opportunity to build camaraderie and collaboration. So if there's a team retreat each year, maybe ask your manager if you can be involved in gamifying the learning part of that retreat where you can get people really excited and moving together.
There's been a term that's popped up in the last couple of years, psychological safety. I think competition in the workplace as we transition to managers is
Mhm.
super important to understand that these competitions, I think, have to exist in a safe space. For a lot of years, I got burned by competitions that didn't go well, and then maybe
Yeah.
Jim wasn't the best loser. Like
Were
let's
you
just be
table flipping at that point?
let's just be real honest. Jim needed some maturity. Like there
Cups
is
being thrown,
something going
tables
on, and
flipped.
I burned myself. No fault. I burned myself on this, and then I began
Mhm.
to avoid team competitions. I would start shutting down. Like, hey, we want to do a small competition in the room. I wanted to have nothing to do with it. And I had to
Wow.
kind of I still struggle with it a little bit, just to be honest. I don't wanna we do this marshmallow exercise thing where you put sticks and marshmallows, and
Yeah.
I don't want anything to do with that. That scares me to death to do a competition like that. So, I think, those of you high in competition, I think we also have to take in consideration psychological safety for individuals. Make sure losing is
Yes.
safe for people,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
I don't know if we think about it that way very much. Like, well, it's not a big deal. No, to some people it is, and I
Mhm.
think that's important. Let's circle around with that idea then with the manager high in communication. How can they use that to support others with their basic needs?
Oh, you mean high in competition?
Yeah, high comp. What did I say?
Communication.
Oh
But I'm
well.
actually gonna talk about it, so
Okay, good.
they all tie in. It's like you had ESP of my brain.
Yeah.
Um, they can help team members keep their eyes on the prize by communicating their target goals, both individually and collectively. So, what's the team member doing themselves, and then what's the team doing together? How is each contributing to that larger goal? So, describe what a win looks like so they know what to strive towards. And then, what performance metrics can they use to track their progress?
I think in past seasons of this show, we've talked about sorting, and I think
Hmm.
competition is really one of those that supports that can sort to people's best, right?
Yeah.
How do I get the best out of
Yes.
people, right? I mean, usually competitions are one of those things that push us. You've seen that example where a guy takes a jar and he puts a bunch of big rocks in it. How many more can I put in here? None.
Hmm.
Oh, then they put smaller rocks and then sand, right?
Yes.
I think competition has that same effect on us so that we could always push, there's the exercise, reach high. Now reach a little bit higher. Well, why didn't you reach that far the first time, right? Because that competition brings out or sorts to the best in us. And I
Hmm.
really think a manager who can appropriately get that competition in a team that's healthy and
Yes.
appropriate, right, can drive them in. And I'll ask you this next question because I think it dovetails nicely into it. How can a manager with competition help others feel seen, heard, and valued. Because if we're just winning to win,
Yes.
does like that's maybe not the right motivation, right? Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah. Yeah. What a great segue. Because they can serve as a champion to others. They can serve as that coach to others. When you spot potential, bring it to that individual's attention. You may see talent in them, to your point of sorting, that they haven't yet seen for themselves. So once you call it out, help them then cultivate it. As they hone their strengths and earn those small victories along the way, then you can take time to help them celebrate it.
Mhm. You know what I was thinking when you were talking? I was thinking the word hope, and I hadn't thought of
Yes.
competition
It's a
as a
good
hope
one.
theme, but
Hmm.
confidence. I think the word you said, confidence and maybe I'll change it to confidence and completion, like being able to get it
Yeah.
done, pushing us farther than we've been before to get it done.
Hmm.
Um, when we think of and this is the question I was thinking of earlier. I'll bring it back though, and sometimes I wonder how can a manager with competition build trust, inspire, and deepen team collaborations? Because I think sometimes we think competition does the opposite of that. Like we, there's only one winner. Everybody else is the second loser,
Yep.
right? But how can that be? Can it be? Can it be?
Yes.
Yeah, talk about that.
Yes. So they can boost team morale and engagement by asking the team what successes they've had so far. Where there's areas to improve, ask for their ideas. They are in the game doing the work while you might be that coach on the sidelines. They likely have a list of plays too that can work really well that you might not have thought about previously.
Yeah, I
Get them in the
think
game.
watch for the trust, build to inspire. Because
Hmm.
that's really, I mean,
Good
competition
slogan.
really inspires people, right? Just be careful that it doesn't break down the trust
Hmm.
in that. As people are competing against, I'm a terrible, I'm a terrible cheater. I mean, I think if it's possible, I'm
Now
cheating
we
at it.
know.
And that does not build trust in teams apparently when you do it that way. But my kids, we used to play video games with my kids, and they eventually stopped playing games with me. They're like, "Dad, stop." So, last question: how can a manager with competition support the growth of each team member? Then,
Positioning team members so that they can play to their unique talents. Where do you see them at their best? What do they desire to develop further? Look for opportunities and devise strategies that maximize their potential and really drive them towards peak performance. As they cultivate their strengths, they really serve to support individual and team goals. And so that's probably something that you want to call out too throughout the span of a year as you're seeing their strengths really come alive and shine.
I think competition has some unfair theme bias against it in some ways because it can be. Listen, they all can be, but it can be misused in some ways or
Hmm.
misunderstood. As we think about wrapping this up, what would you say to someone who's been hurt or burned or driven this way? I don't know what kind of advice as we just kind of wrap it up. What do you think about that?
Oh, for someone with competition or that's been burned by competition?
Um,
Maybe the person with
can you say
competition.
something? Yeah, yeah. Since it's,
Yeah.
I was going to say, can
And
you do both? Can I challenge you to do both?
right? Yeah. I think, well, when I see competition used positively, and we think about a manager position, but this could be team members too that are just helping to clarify with their team, with their colleagues. Clarifying expectations with the team, where you're setting clear performance standards and then encouraging a competitive spirit within a collaborative and supportive environment, is really where I see managers shine, or even team members that have this team shine, because it's we're all in this together. We're competing for the same outcome, and we're hoping to be the best of the best outside of our team. There's no competitive there's no negative competitive feelings that we have as a team, because we're only at our best when we're all working together.
Mm,
So I think that's important to keep in mind. If you have competition high, how am I using it, and is it a way that's going to bring the team together like an effective sports team, where we're not all catty and fighting against each other, because then we're never going to
mhm.
win. And if you know someone that has competition and you've been burned before in the past, Hopefully this just enlightens you of the way that it has come across really beautifully whenever we've worked with or coached or listened to people that have this theme, because it can create a lot of fun, a lot of synergy and energy on a team. That's why I love it, because it
Get a lot of
really
stuff
feeds
done.
positivity. I'm like,
Yeah.
they bring fun when it's
Yeah.
used right.
You said that a bunch, and I'll be honest, I'm not sure I've ever thought about competition
Oh
feeding
yeah.
positivity. And maybe that's
Hmm.
just my own experience, right? Maybe it's
Yeah.
because I was such a bad competitor when I was a
Maybe.
child
It's the games.
and maybe
When
even
I've
a young
worked with
adult.
people with this, oh my gosh. Have
Yeah.
you worked well, yeah, when I've worked with people on my team with this, they come up with games so easy, and I'm like, "Well, this is fun." And you see
Yeah.
all the
Yeah.
excitement
Yeah.
in people's faces and
Mhm.
classrooms when it's like, "Let's do strength charades," or "Let's do
Mhm.
this." Like, I never would have thought of that.
My kids wanna play games all the time, and I'm like, "Ah, I don't know." I just go to the other room.
You're
Like,
that guy. You're that guy.
I need to work on it. Because
Yeah.
we start playing them and they're fun.
Mhm.
I just listen, the psychological safety that I mentioned is because of me. Like, that is
Yeah.
I felt unsafe in the past, and I think I've made others feel unsafe
Yeah, now
too.
you've killed the fun. You've killed the fun.
I have indeed, I have indeed. Well, just,
Yeah.
for those listening, just a little bit of insight, this is not always Pollyannish
Don't play games with
sun
Jim. We've
sunshine and
learned.
rainbows. No, I think this is
Yeah.
important that we have these kinds of conversations. I think
Mhm.
especially for leaders, we get put in an area where we think we have to be perfect.
Mhm.
And I'm the first to admit it. I got an issue there. I got some things to work on. Still,
Yeah.
at my age, it's tough being 27, but at
Yeah.
my age, I'm still learning. I'm still learning. There's a little competition. Well, Jaclynn, thank you for that. Always
Oh,
great
yes.
conversation. And I'll end it and just by saying how I started. I think competition gets an unfair rap sometimes, and
Mhm.
it is a
Yes.
powerful theme that can do, to your point, very positive things. So I
Yes.
think with that, we'll wrap
Ah,
it.
well said.
We want to we want to remind everyone, take full advantage of all the resources we have available now in Gallup Access. Head out to my.gallup.com and sign in the search. You can search for this theme. All that stuff will all our resources will come up. You can do that on gallup.com too. And all these webcasts will show up as well. For coaching, master coaching, or become a Gallup certified strengths coach, send us an email, coaching@gallup.com. We'll get somebody to help you with that. If you want to join us for the 2024 or whatever year it is you're listening to this, could be well into the future. I'm sure we'll have one, or it'll redirect, but
Mhm.
gallup@work.com. We'd love to see you in Omaha this summer. In June. Stay up to date with all our future webcasts by joining our Facebook and LinkedIn groups. You can find us on any social platform by searching Clifton Strengths. And if you enjoyed it, hit those like and subscribe buttons. It's a good ego boost for me. It's a competition. We need 10,000 subscribes off this
Ooh.
video. That's what all the YouTubers do, right there. They're all saying, "I'll
Yes.
do something if you get 10,000." So share it, subscribe to it. Thanks for listening today. And with that, we'll say goodbye, everybody.